What if the very thing that makes you proud, your independence, is the same thing that makes women over 50 secretly pull away? Most men over 60 see independence as their biggest strength. You've worked hard for it, you've built a life you can stand on your own 2 feet with, and you're proud of that freedom. But here's the twist. What if the very quality that makes you strong, confident, and self-sufficient is also the hidden reason women hesitate to step closer? Today we're pulling back the curtain on something rarely talked about. Why women over 50 secretly fear dating highly independent men. And it's not what you think. It isn't about money, it isn't about control, and it isn't even about romance in the way you'd expect. These fears are subtle, often unspoken, and yet they can determine whether a spark turns into a lasting connection, or fades before it even begins. In this video, I'll share 5 surprising reasons women over 50 feel uncertain around independent men. Reasons that go deeper than surface-level assumptions. These insights will help you see independence through her eyes, and more importantly, show you how to turn that very independence into an advantage in love. Stick with me because by the end, you'll discover the one simple shift that can transform fear into attraction, and hesitation into commitment. Hit that like button if you believe dating after 60 has its own unique challenges, because what you'll hear today may just change the way you approach relationships forever. Meet Aldric. He's 63 years old, living in a quiet suburb of Ohio. He lost his wife to illness several years ago, and after walking through that season of grief, he did something remarkable. He rebuilt his life from the ground up. Aldric is the kind of man people admire from a distance. He owns a comfortable home, he maintains himself, he's financially stable, and he's got a routine that works. He starts his mornings with a walk through the park, spends afternoons volunteering at the local library, and on weekends, you might catch him planning road trips across the Midwest or experimenting with recipes most people would only try in a 5-star restaurant. To anyone looking in, Aldric has it all figured out. He's strong, capable, and not dependent on anyone for his happiness. Friends describe him as dependable, resourceful, even inspiring. But there's something he doesn't talk about as openly. His dating life. Aldric has dipped his toes back into the world of senior dating apps, gone on coffee meetups, even accepted introductions from friends. And here's the strange part. While women often seem intrigued by him at first, the enthusiasm doesn't last. They smile, they share laughs, but then slowly the communication fades, the messages stop, and he's left wondering what went wrong. It's confusing for him because he's doing what most advice says men should do. Be confident, independent, and not needy. He's not showing up empty-handed. He's bringing stability, stories, and strength. So why do women hesitate? Why do they quietly back away just when things seem to be going well? Aldric isn't alone. Many men over 60 who've built independent lives find themselves in the same situation. Independence should be a badge of honor, and in many ways it is, but when it comes to relationships, it can also create invisible barriers that men rarely see, but women often feel immediately. And that's why Aldric's story matters. He represents countless men who are genuinely ready for companionship, but are left puzzled by the silence on the other end of the phone. So today, through Aldric's experience, we'll uncover the deeper truth. The 5 surprising reasons women over 50 secretly fear dating independent men. Each reason reveals not just what women feel, but also what men can do differently to build stronger, warmer connections. And as you listen, you may find yourself seeing independence in a whole new way. Reason 1. Independence can feel like there's no room for her. For many women over 50, the first impression of an independent man is magnetic. Independence signals confidence, capability, and strength. Qualities that are deeply appealing, especially at this stage of life. But over time, that same independence can begin to create an entirely different feeling. What once looked like stability can quietly start to feel like distance. And instead of seeing herself as a partner in your world, she begins to wonder if she's just an optional addition, an extra rather than someone essential. Take Aldric, for example. He's the kind of man who doesn't wait for life to happen. He plans his own adventures. He once told a woman he was dating about a 2-week road trip he had mapped out, complete with scenic stops, quirky diners, and a schedule that left little to chance. He thought he was sharing something exciting. But the woman listening smiled politely, nodded, and later admitted to a friend, "It sounds like he doesn't really need anyone along." Aldric didn't mean to exclude her. He was simply being himself. Yet the message she heard was different. There's no space for me in his world. This is the hidden tension. A woman over 50 doesn't just want companionship. She wants to feel like she belongs in your daily rhythm. After decades of raising families, navigating careers, or perhaps surviving her own losses, she's not interested in being a background character. She wants to feel like her presence matters, like her laughter, her advice, her company could shift the course of your day. When your independence leaves little room for shared moments, she may not say anything out loud, but deep inside she feels unnecessary. So what's the solution? It's not about giving up your independence. In fact, your self-sufficiency is what makes you attractive. The key is in the invitation. Instead of presenting your independence as a finished product, frame it as a foundation you'd like to share. Instead of saying, "I love going on road trips," try, "I've planned a few routes before, but I'd love to discover a new one with someone special." Instead of "I cook gourmet meals for myself," say, "I'd love to try one of these recipes together." It's even better when shared. This small shift turns independence from something that keeps her at arm's length into something that draws her closer. It tells her, "There is room for you here." And that makes all the difference. Do you think independence leaves less room for companionship? Comment below, I'd love to hear your take. Reason 2. She fears becoming unnecessary. By the time a woman reaches her 50s or 60s, her life often looks very different than it did a decade or two earlier. Children may be grown and living on their own, careers may have slowed down or shifted into retirement, and even long-held roles, like being the caretaker, the problem solver, or the one holding a household together, may no longer define her daily life. This stage can bring a deep sense of freedom, but it can also raise a quiet question. Where do I matter now? When she meets a man who seems fully self-sufficient, that question becomes louder. If he has his home in perfect order, his finances squared away, his routines established, and his social life already rich, she wonders, what difference would I make here? What do I bring that he doesn't already have? What begins as admiration for his independence can slowly shift into insecurity about her own role. This doesn't mean she wants to be needed in a dependent way. She doesn't want to rescue or mother a man at this stage in life. What she does want is to feel like her presence adds value, like she's not just sitting on the sidelines watching his life play out. She wants to contribute, whether it's through companionship, shared laughter, offering insight, or simply being the person who brightens his day when things feel heavy. If his independence leaves no gaps for her to step into, she may quietly conclude there's no space for her to matter. Aldric experienced this firsthand. One woman he dated confided that being with him sometimes felt like visiting a beautifully decorated house where every picture was already hung, every chair already placed, and every shelf perfectly arranged. She admired it, but she didn't feel like she could leave her mark. She feared she'd simply exist in the background, without ever shaping the story. For her, that was a deal breaker. This is why the small act of letting someone contribute, even in little ways, matters so much. Asking her opinion on a decision, inviting her to share a favorite tradition, or simply letting her plan part of an outing sends the signal that her presence changes things, that she's not unnecessary but rather an integral part of the experience. It's not about creating dependence, it's about creating relevance. And when a woman over 50 feels relevant in your life, she feels safe, valued, and more open to building something lasting. But the next reason isn't just emotional, it's deeply practical, and it surprises most men. Reason 3. Financial and lifestyle mismatch. One of the most overlooked fears women over 50 carry when dating independent men is the worry that their lifestyles simply won't blend. By this stage of life, Both men and women have spent decades creating routines, preferences, and habits that feel comfortable. And when two established lives meet, differences can sometimes feel bigger than similarities. Independent men often have firm structures in place. They know how they like to spend their mornings, what they eat, where they travel, and how they manage money. While this stability is admirable, it can sometimes leave a woman feeling like she'll have to squeeze herself into an already rigid life. That's when hesitation creeps in. Take Aldric, for instance. He enjoys gourmet cooking and takes pride in experimenting with complex recipes that look like something out of a cooking show. He once invited a woman over and served a multi-course meal complete with wine pairings. She appreciated the effort, but later admitted that she felt a little out of place, like her simpler tastes didn't measure up. What Aldrich saw as generosity and charm, she experienced as a reminder of their differences. She worried that if they built a relationship, she'd always feel slightly inadequate or judged. The same dynamic shows up with travel. Aldrich loves planning structured trips, itineraries with museums, historic stops, and fine dining experiences. But what if she prefers spontaneous road trips or laid-back beach days? To her, his independence doesn't just represent freedom. It represents a fixed way of living that may not leave room for her preferences. This is the hidden fear. Not that the man is too independent financially or socially, but that independence has made him set in his ways. Women over 50 don't want to feel like they're giving up their identity to fit into someone else's lifestyle. They want compromise, collaboration, and the freedom to bring their own world into the relationship. Here's the key. Independence becomes more attractive when it's paired with flexibility. Instead of showcasing your life as a polished package, show that you're open to blending habits, tastes, and choices. Maybe one night you cook gourmet, the next you share her favorite comfort meal. Maybe one trip follows your itinerary, and the next is guided by her sense of adventure. It's not about losing independence. It's about proving you're willing to create new traditions together. Would you change your lifestyle for love after 60? Let's see your answers in the comments. Reason 4. Independence sometimes looks like emotional distance. For many women over 50, independence is an admirable trait in a man. It signals that he can take care of himself, that he's reliable, and that he's not looking for someone to rescue him. But here's the catch. That same independence can easily be mistaken for emotional distance. What he views as strength, she sometimes experiences as a wall. Imagine Aldric in a typical situation. When something breaks around the house, he doesn't hesitate. He fixes it himself. When he's feeling down, he doesn't share. He distracts himself with work or hobbies. When asked if he needs help, his response is almost always the same. I've got it handled. To him, this shows capability. To the woman sitting across from him, it may sound like, I don't need you here. I don't trust you with my inner world. That subtle difference can make or break a connection. Because at this stage of life, women aren't looking for someone to simply share a roof or a dinner table. They're looking for emotional intimacy. The quiet conversations late at night, the unspoken support during tough days, the vulnerability that builds true closeness. Companionship is wonderful, but without emotional depth, it can feel hollow. When a man's independence makes him seem unwilling to open up, she may interpret it as a sign that he'll never let her all the way in. And that fear isn't just about missing connection. It's about investing her heart in someone who won't invest his back. Many women over 50 have already weathered loss, disappointment, or even decades of marriages where they felt unseen. They're not looking to repeat that pattern. They want proof that a man's independence doesn't mean he'll go through life at arm's length. The good news. It doesn't take grand gestures to change this perception. Simple things like asking for her opinion, admitting when you've had a hard day, or sharing memories from your past can signal that you're open, even if you're strong. Independence and vulnerability aren't opposites. They're two sides of what makes a partner feel safe and real. When a woman sees that your independence doesn't block emotional closeness but actually creates a solid base for it, her fear melts into trust. She feels not just respected but cherished. And the last reason is the one most men never realize. Until it's too late. Reason 5. Fear of being temporary in your life. Perhaps the most powerful fear that women over 50 carry when they meet an independent man is the worry that she will never truly belong in his life, that she'll only ever be passing through. Independence is wonderful, but when a man has already built a strong, self-sufficient world, it can make her wonder, am I just a visitor here? Will I always be on the outside looking in? By this age, many women have learned the cost of investing in relationships that don't last. Some may have gone through divorce, others through widowhood, and many have faced years of giving themselves to family or work with little acknowledgement. They don't want to repeat old mistakes, and they don't want to spend their golden years feeling like they're renting space in someone else's story. What they crave most is permanence, a sense of being woven into the fabric of someone's life in a way that's lasting and meaningful. For Aldric, this realization came after a dinner date with a woman he truly liked. He talked about his travel plans, his house projects, and his future goals. At the end of the evening, she smiled but said something that stuck with him. It all sounds wonderful, Aldric, but I don't see where I fit in. In that moment, he recognized the unspoken truth. His independence, while admirable, was unintentionally making women feel like outsiders. The turning point came when Aldric changed the way he spoke about his life. Instead of saying, I'm planning to redo my backyard this summer, he began to say, I've been thinking about redoing the backyard, maybe we could brainstorm some ideas together. Instead of I love traveling alone, he shifted to, I've seen a lot on my own, but I'd love to make new memories with someone special. These small changes sent a much larger message. This is my world, but I want you in it. That single adjustment, from independence as a closed circle to independence as an open invitation, transformed how women experienced him. Suddenly, he wasn't just a man with a complete life. He was a man who wanted to build a shared future. And this is what matters most. Women over 50 don't want to be temporary companions or weekend visitors. They want to know that their presence changes the picture, that their love creates a permanent place in your world. When you show her that your independence has room for permanence, you turn fear into trust, and trust into lasting connection. For a long time, Aldric couldn't understand why dating felt like a revolving door. Women admired him, praised his confidence, even complimented the life he had built, but when it came to moving forward, they hesitated. The pattern repeated so often that he started to wonder if something was wrong with him, or if maybe love after 60 just wasn't in the cards. But what Aldric discovered wasn't that he needed to change who he was. It was that he needed to soften the edges of his independence and turn it into an open invitation. This shift didn't happen overnight. It started with self-reflection. Aldric realized that his independence, though well-earned, was being presented as a closed book. His routines, his home, his hobbies, and even his conversations all signaled, I'm complete on my own. That message, though unintentional, left women feeling like there was no space for them. So Aldric asked himself a new question. How can I keep my freedom, but still create room for someone else to belong? The answer wasn't about giving up what he loved. It was about including someone in it. Instead of cooking elaborate meals just for himself, he began inviting women to join him in the kitchen, even if it meant the meal turned out simpler. Instead of planning solo road trips, he left room for spontaneity by saying, I've mapped out part of the route, but I'd love for you to choose a stop or two. Instead of brushing off offers of help with, I've got it covered, he allowed space for partnership, responding with, Actually, I'd appreciate your perspective on this. These small changes had a big impact. Women no longer felt like outsiders peeking into his carefully built world. They began to feel like co-authors in a story that was still unfolding. Aldric noticed that conversations went deeper, laughter came easier, and connections lasted longer. Independence, once a barrier, became a foundation for something richer because he learned how to extend an invitation into it. And here's the powerful truth. Aldric didn't lose an ounce of freedom in this process. He still traveled, still cooked, still maintained his routines. But now, instead of doing it all alone, He discovered the joy of weaving another person into the fabric of his independence. What he gained was connection, real, meaningful, lasting connection. Independence plus invitation is irresistible. When a woman sees that your strength leaves space for her presence, she doesn't fear being unnecessary or temporary anymore. She feels chosen, and that feeling changes everything. When we look at Aldric's story, it reveals something bigger than just one man's dating challenges. It shines a light on what many independent men over 60 experience without realizing it. Independence is a gift. It shows strength, resilience, and the ability to stand tall. But in the world of relationships, that very gift can cast unexpected shadows. Let's bring it all together. First, independence can sometimes leave no room for her. What feels like confidence to you may look like exclusion to her, making her wonder if there's a place in your daily life. Second, she fears being unnecessary. After years of raising families or building careers, women want to feel like their presence makes a difference. If your life looks too polished, she may worry she adds nothing new. Third, lifestyle mismatches can quietly create distance. Whether it's food preferences, spending habits, or how you like to travel, a woman wants to feel her way of living is welcomed, not just tolerated. Fourth, independence can sometimes be mistaken for emotional distance. When you always insist, "I've got it handled," it may come across as though you don't want to share your heart. Yet what women crave most at this stage is emotional closeness, not just companionship. And finally, she worries about being temporary in your life. No one wants to feel like a visitor in someone else's carefully built world. She longs for permanence, to know that she's not just fitting in, but truly belonging. Here's the truth. Your independence isn't the problem. It's forgetting to leave space for love. When you show her that your strength has room for her presence, you turn fear into comfort, hesitation into trust, and interest into a lasting bond. Do you see yourself in Aldric's story? If this opened your eyes, hit that like button, share this with a friend over 60 who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more real talk about love, connection, and relationships after 60.